Hey everyone, and welcome to my Wave 4, Wave 5 and Wave 6 predictions for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass DLC. So in this video I'm going over my predictions for each wave that's yet to come, and I'm also taking into account things like leaks, stuff that's already in the game files, because some of the courses are referenced by name, some of the courses are referenced by actual snippets of the soundtrack that's in there, as well as there are some leftover items. I did pretty decently in my Wave 3 predictions, so I feel like I'm going to do well here, so let's get right into it.
Lockhart QT.
So first off we have the Fruit Cup, and our first trip is to Amsterdam Drift for Mario Kart Tour. Since Wave 4 is coming out probably March-April time, I feel like this is a perfect sort of spring course to start us off. And again, Amsterdam Drift is already in the game's files, both referenced by naming convention as well as a small snippet of music. Next up we have DK Summit from Mario Kart Wii. DK Summit is already been referenced in a version of the banner art that hasn't been used, and the course has already appeared in Mario Kart Tour, so I feel like it's a really good course to come back, plus it's one of the fan favourites from Wii that hasn't come back yet. Next up is Airship Fortress. I'm really surprised that this course for Mario Kart DS hasn't come back yet. We do know that this third sort of place in the Fruit Cup is a DS course, so I feel like it is going to be Airship Fortress. Again, it's been referenced in the sort of banner art that's in the game files that hasn't been released to the public, as well as it's already in Mario Kart Tour, so it's a surefire course. Next up we have a brand new course. We don't actually know much about this fourth place in the Fruit Cup, we just know that it is going to be a new course that will also be in Mario Kart Tour. However, in the game files it has references to Fruit and Shy Guys, which leaves many of us to believe in the Mario Kart community that it's going to be a Yoshi's Island themed course. And sort of like the Sunday course from I think it was Wave 2, I feel like this is going to be a brand new course that is introduced first into the Booster Course Pass, then into Mario Kart Tour. Next up we have the Boomerang Cup in Wave 4. First off we start off with Singapore Speedway from Mario Kart Tour. Again, another tour track that we know this position in the Boomerang Cup is going to be a tour track, and Singapore Speedway already has music referenced in the game, so I feel like it's a shoo-in really. Next up is a really interesting one. I've placed it as Waluigi Stadium from Double Dash. So Waluigi Stadium I actually put in my Wave 3 prediction because, fun fact, many have speculated due to the sort of metadata and what's internally already in the game's files that Waluigi Stadium was actually meant to appear in Wave 3 instead of Maple Treeway. However, for whatever reason, it just was moved about. So Waluigi Stadium both has items like the piranha plants that come out the pipes. That's already in the game files. We have banners that are specific to Waluigi Stadium also in the game files, as well as a snippet of music. And I feel like Waluigi Stadium's got to come back, and I feel like it's also going to be remastered in Tour as well. Next up, I've put Riverside Park from the GBA, so essentially this is another track that's already been in Mario Kart Tour, and I feel like it is going to come back at some point in Mario Kart 8. Lastly, for Wave 4, we have Los Angeles Laps. So again, this has been referenced in the game files, and it's also got a snippet of music, so I feel like the Wave 4 tracks will end off with LA Laps. Going straight into Wave 5, we have the Feather Cup, starting off with Vancouver Velocity. Now, I've already tried to guess this track twice in both, I think it was Wave 1 and Wave 3, so hopefully I get this right. But yeah, again, Vancouver Velocity is referenced in the game files, as well as the snippet of music being available in the game files as well. Plus, it's a tour track, and it's one of the first tour tracks, and it's also one of the best tour tracks. It's a bit weird that we'd have to wait this long for it, but hopefully we do get it in Wave 5. Next up is another Mario Kart Wii track, and this is going to be Cooper Cape. Hopefully we get a more sort of closer version to the Mario Kart Wii version than we did in Mario Kart Tour. Cooper Cape has actually appeared in the banner art that I was on about earlier that's in the game files. It actually has appeared. I'm not going to show it on screen because technically it is a leak and I don't really want to get in trouble for copyright, but essentially there is a banner art that's in the game files that, as I said earlier, it's not available to the public. Cooper Cape is in the background of that. I think it's a DK Summit and a few other courses are also there as well. Next up is Sunset Wilds. Again, this course has music in the game files already, as well as items. I think it's the little sort of native Indian tents, as well as the day and night cycles referenced in the game files as well, because essentially what happens is it's sort of like a sunset track, and then on the last lap it goes to nighttime. This is referenced in the game files as well as a snippet of music. So, and the fact that it's already in Mario Kart Tour gives it a really, really good chance to come back. Plus, it's one of the only Super Circuit tracks that hasn't come back yet. Next up is a brand new tour track. Now, when I was going over what tour tracks to add, I had a look, and there aren't really many more after sort of the Vancouver Velocity and a couple more which I'll go on to in a bit. So it's a bit weird that I'm referencing this, but in the game files it references a tour track that starts with A and T. Now, that doesn't really match the description of many of the locations that we already have in Mario Kart Tour. So I'm going to say this is a brand new course, and it's going to be based off Athens in Greece. And I feel like this would be a really cool track, because not only is Greece a beautiful country if you haven't been there, with the sort of Mediterranean feel and whatnot, you can have loads of ruins, you can have the temples in Athens, as well as going around the street, maybe on, I don't know what else they could do really, but that's what springs to mind with Athens really. So I think this will be an Athens track that will appear both in Mario Kart Tour as well as the Booster Course Pass. Or it may just appear in Mario Kart Tour first and then the Booster Course Pass. Next up is the Double Cherry Cup. So here I've put Bangkok. This is a really good track in Mario Kart Tour. This genuinely took me by surprise when I played it. I thought it was really good. And it's also referenced in the game files in music as well. So I feel like this track is definitely 100% going to come back. So I've placed it in Wave 5 in the Double Cherry Cup. Next up we have Mushroom Ridge from Double Dash. This is one of my all-time favourites, so I really hope it comes back. In the game files, we also have references for a couple of vehicles that haven't appeared yet. Now, obviously, this isn't a confirmation of Mushroom Ridge actually being in the game, whereas with other tracks, we actually have solid confirmation that they are at least in the game files. Obviously, it's not a confirmation that they will appear in the game, but they're at least in the game files. And those leaks that I keep going on about are super relevant, because every course that has appeared other than Waluigi Stadium has appeared in waves 1, 2, and 3 so far. So there you go. Next up, we have Vanilla Lake 1 from the SNES. I feel like this, I personally don't really like this track. I feel like if they could do it up with maybe adding some extra ramps, or making it a bit wider, or adding some gliding sections like they have with, for example, with Peach Gardens, they changed the last lap so it's in reverse. Something like that, just to spice up this course a bit, as I feel like the SNES courses have just sort of fallen behind a little bit in terms of quality, but I feel like Vanilla Lake 1 would be a good course to put here. Now, lastly, I didn't really know what to do for this course, because usually this would be where either a brand new course goes or a tour track. However, we're now running out of tour tracks, and I've cheated here a bit, because in the game files, this last place in the Double Cherry Cup actually doesn't reference a 3DS course for Mario Kart 7 at all. So I've put Woohoo Loop, which is one of my all-time favourites, which is essentially the Wii Sports track that I feel like has to come back, because they've already got stuff in Mario Kart 8 with the battle course that takes place on Woohoo Island. So I feel like they could just pull a lot from that, and then obviously just remaster the course on Mario Kart 7. So lastly, we're now going on to Wave 6. We have the Acorn Cup. Now, this track is very interesting, because the track that goes here is a Mario Kart Tour track. Now, at this point, we've actually ran out of real-life locations, hence why I had to pull from Athens earlier. So in this one, all it references, I think it references sunshine and the letters MA. So this could mean to me, and I've done my research by looking at other videos and online on Reddit and things like that, and people are suggesting that this could be Madrid from Spain. Now, I think with Spain, obviously Madrid is the capital, however, Barcelona would also be a really good pick from Spain, or Valencia as well. I feel like any of these three would be a really good pick from Spain, as we haven't really had a Spanish course yet in Mario Kart Tour. So I feel like this could be another track where it's added to Mario Kart Tour, then quickly added to the Booster Course Pass. Next up, we have another Double Dash track, and being Daisy Cruiser. Daisy Cruiser is a really interesting one because, again, it's a fan favourite. I'm quite surprised it hasn't returned yet. Plus, it's also in Mario Kart Tour, so that gives it more of a edge on its competitors when trying to get into the Booster Course Pass. Next up in the Acorn Cup is Shy Guy Bazaar from Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS. Really surprised that this course hasn't come back yet in some way, shape or form. It's a really underrated track for Mario Kart 7. It's also got a great soundtrack. It's a great course overall. And it's not really referenced anywhere, but it's at least in Mario Kart Tour, so that gives it a bit of leeway there. Lastly, in the Acorn Cup, we have Piranha Plant Cove. This is a brand new course. As of writing this, I think it was announced either yesterday or the day before. I actually had in my script that I'm reading from, essentially that this course references piranha plants, eels, underwater and dark caves in the game files. So this, in the Acorn Cup, has to be Piranha Plant Cove. I can't see it matching any other course really, but it's a bit weird that we're getting it in Mario Kart Tour, then potentially getting it not all the way into Wave 6, which could be November, December, so again, we'll have to wait and see. Now lastly, we're going to the Blue Shell Cup from Wave 6, and this is a really interesting one as well, because this first track in the code of the actual game files is only referenced as a tour track and ORL in the actual naming convention of it. So this isn't confirmation or anything, but this could very much be I've heard a lot of people speculating this, so I thought I'd add it in as well because I think it's a really fun idea, being Super Nintendo World, a track based off of Super Nintendo World. This would be a really cool idea, and it'd be a really good track to add in the sort of last cup in Wave 6 to end off the Booster Course Pass, unless they decide to do, I don't know, like 6 more waves if it's made that much money, I don't know. But I feel like that would be a really cool way to add a sort of real life Nintendo location, if that makes sense, so that's really cool in of itself. Next up, we have DK Mountain from Double Dash. This was a few months ago added to Mario Kart Tour, plus again, it's a fan favourite. It's one of the, I'd say, 2 best courses in Double Dash, so I feel like this last cup has to have absolute bangers in it, and I feel like having DK Mountain would be a really good idea. Next up, we have Bowser's Castle 3 from Super Circuit, again another fan favourite, and I feel like if they added in the remixed sections for Mario Kart Tour for the last lap, things could get a bit crazy, because there's one bit where there's like 2 million ramps going over the lava that you can do tricks over, and I feel like adding a course like that for the difficulty would be really good. Now lastly, to end off the Booster Course Pass, we have Mario Kart Wii's Rainbow Road, which is one of my favourite all-time tracks, and I'm so happy that it's coming back. Rainbow Road on the Wii is just a really good track overall, plus I feel like adding another Rainbow Road, like how they ended off Wave 3, would be a really good idea to end off the entire course pass with not only one of the fan favourite courses, but a Rainbow Road. Although it's a bit weird that we haven't seen Super Circuit and Double Dash's Rainbow Road. I think Mario Kart DS's, I think those are the only 3 that haven't come back yet. But personally, I was in the camp of hoping for sort of all 4 Rainbow Roads to appear in the last cup. So hopefully that still happens, but at the same time, I feel like this would still be a really good way to end off the entire Booster Course Pass. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for watching. This is a bit of a sort of half unscripted, scripted video. I've just sort of been rambling about what I think of each course. Obviously, I've been looking at the leaks, the actual game files, like the files that are in the game already, as well as Mario Kart Tour, so I've been sort of pulling all that together to come up with this list. I don't think it's going to be 100% accurate, because Nintendo are so hard to predict unless it's been fully leaked, as in pictures, gameplay, everything else. As I said, most of these tracks were actually really easy to predict, because not only are they referenced in the game files as in their actual place in each cup, but they've also got music, so that pretty much confirms some of the tracks, such as sort of Vancouver Velocity, LA Laps and Amsterdam Drift, for example. But the other ones, like the sort of unknown tour tracks, like Madrid, Barcelona, and then potentially like Orlando or Super Nintendo World, they're so hard to predict, because I have no idea They're just literally referenced as new tour tracks, so we're going to have to wait and see, and I'm personally really excited to see what Nintendo do. Anyway everyone, thank you so much for watching this video, and for more Nintendo and Mario Kart content, stay subscribed to the channel as I've got loads more planned for in the future, and I'll also have video playthroughs and potentially live streams of each wave once they release. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.